Gaining Traction in Your Business by Losing Control was a live webinar that was originally produced on Thursday, October 19th, 2017. For this webinar, we were joined by Brian White of Whitestone Solutions. We hope you enjoyed this webinar recap, and please visit us online at www.macpass.com for more information about our future webinars and other events. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dan Matarisi, and I'm a Senior Manager here at McConley & Asbury. And thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, Gaining Traction in Your Business by Losing Control. Today, we're excited to have Brian White with us from Whitestone Solutions. So Brian has a passion to help entrepreneurial businesses and their leadership teams. And Whitestone's mission is to help organizations and people thrive. I know he'll talk a little bit about himself and his background once we start, but I'm sure that we will enjoy and benefit from our time with him today. If anyone has any questions for our speaker, we encourage you to submit them through the built-in questions function. We'll do our best to answer them either during the presentation or at the end of the webinar. So thanks again for joining us today. And with that said, Brian, why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Great. Well, thank you, Dan. It is an honor to be here with you today and with all of you to talk a little bit about something that I'm very passionate about. So first of all, I just want to thank McConley & Asbury for the opportunity. Specifically, I want to thank one of their partners, Greg Lowe, who introduced me to the firm and set this opportunity up today. So what I want to do is begin first with a story. And this is the story that started it all. It's really the birthplace of my personal leadership as well as having a desire to grow. It's the place where people and systems collided, the center of my greatest paradigm shift. You see, I learned to lose control and everything got better. It was about 10 years ago. I was the general manager for a small niche manufacturing company. Now, the prior 4 years had just been really tough. In 2003, we lost all of our business from our largest customer. Revenue was basically cut in half. So for 4 long years, we struggled just to eke out a small profit. Truth be told, there wasn't much of a business to work with anyway. We were just a custom shop. We made solenoid valves. We had no sales, quality, or even engineering departments, but we did have a few Navy projects that kept us afloat while I began to build the business one department at a time. I had literal blood, sweat, and tears in that business, like many of you. And after 4 long years, we had a rough sales process, a new catalog-based product design, and an ISO quality system. We also had a few manufacturing and inventory controls in place. The best part of it was we were acquiring new customers, and revenue was growing. But as I sat at my desk, I looked a lot like the guy in the picture you see in front of you. I found myself with my head in my hands. Why? Well, instead of finally hitting that critical mass, I found myself frustrated with late deliveries, growing inventories, inexcusable overtime costs. To top it all off, there was a line outside of my door. Who were they? My team. They were waiting for me to give them direction, waiting for me to solve all of their problems. Why couldn't they take some initiative? Why was I the only one pulling the sled around here? Well, at least sales were up. My one high-performing manager seemed to be enthusiastically bringing in the business. He wasn't out there in that line, waiting for me to do his job. No. As I turned my head to look out my office window, oh wait, there he was, in the parking lot, unaware that I was watching him as he began to pour his bottle of vodka into a coffee mug and start to drink it. I don't know about you, but it was only 10 in the morning, and in that instant, I was done. I had given up. It was time for some serious soul searching. I can tell you, I learned a lot of things in that valley, but the most important was this. My need to control was incompatible with a scaling business. I don't know about you, have you ever felt that way? Feel like you're losing control and yet you're squeezing tighter and tighter on your team or your business? Maybe it's even your department. The harder you squeeze, the more things seem to unravel. So let me share one illustration with you before I talk to you about the solution to this issue. There's a leader who is walking along and falls off a cliff. And on his way down, he manages to catch hold of a vine. If you can imagine, there's 1,000 feet up to the top of the cliff and 1,000 feet down below. His arms are getting tired, and he decides to look up and, well, he's not a praying man, but he yells out and says, "Is anybody up there?" Well, to his amazement, this voice billows down from below, and it says, "Do you believe?" Well, the guy can't believe it. Somebody responded. So, what's he going to say? Even though he's not a praying man, obviously he's going to respond. So he says, "Yes, I believe." And the voice billows down, "Let go of the vine." Well, his arms are getting really tired. His grip's starting to slip, and he's sitting there thinking, and he looks back up and he says, "Is anybody else up there?" And so what's the point? The point is it's hard to let go. It's hard. And when I learned to let go, everything got better. So what I'm about to present to you is a system that at its very core is designed to help leaders and teams and managers learn to let go and trust the system. It's really designed so that when you do let go, you know that someone or something will be there to catch you. So with that, I know I probably have a few type A'ers in our audience who want to know exactly where I'm taking them so they can follow along with me. So for you type A'ers, here is the agenda for today. It's a real simple 4-step agenda. The first step is about us. I'm going to talk a little bit about EOS Worldwide and myself, just so you know that I'm not practicing on you today. Step 2, I'll turn the tables a little bit and I'll actually find out a little bit about you. Thanks for Dan for setting this up with technology. We have some polls that we're going to ask, some questions, so I get a little sense about your businesses and your teams. Step 3, we're going to look at the tools. Now, I'm actually going to share with you the exact tools that I use with all of my clients. So I'm warning you, I'm going to kind of open the fire hose on you. It's meant to be a learning intensive learning time. So I will share with you the exact insights into the EOS process. The other cool thing that I'm going to do there, and I hope you stay with me, is I'm going to build the presentation on the fly. So for those of you who are tired of a webinar with all PowerPoint, this will be a little bit different for you, a little more fun. Step 4, I'm going to share the exact process that I take a client through. It's a proven process to actually achieve the results that we do. So with that, let me get started with step 1, about us. So EOS Worldwide is a growing organization of successful entrepreneurs that come from a variety of different business backgrounds. They're all come together collaborating to help entrepreneurs and their teams succeed. The gentleman you see pictured there is named Gino Wickman, and he started his entrepreneurial journey at the age of 21. Soon thereafter, he became an owner in a family business. It was one of the nation's top sales training companies. And when he took the business over, he stepped into the middle of a turnaround. Gino completely turned that business around in about 3 years, ran the business a total of 7 years, and then he successfully sold the business. During that same period of time, though, he was one of the original 10 members of the Detroit chapter of the Entrepreneurs Organization. And together, they built that chapter up to about 90 members. Through that experience, he found himself helping many of his EO brethren, and he really fell in love with the wonderful world of business and entrepreneurialism. He actually discovered he had this knack or passion for understanding the science of what makes businesses run. So, after retiring from his family business, he created EOS, and he set out to help entrepreneurial leadership teams get what they want out of their business. Now here, I want you to listen to this. The power of EOS is that it's real world. It's extremely simple and very practical. This isn't a theory here. It's not a flavor of the month. No magic pills. These really are just timeless but field-tested tools that work. So to date, as you can see there, EOS implementers have delivered over 25,000 full-day sessions to over 3,900 clients. Ultimately, those sessions do 3 things that we call vision, traction, and healthy. And if you want the summation of everything I'm going to talk to you about today, it's in that vision, traction, healthy. You see, vision from a standpoint of helping you get on the same page with the vision. Traction from a standpoint of helping you gain more traction, executing better, becoming more disciplined and accountable to each other. And then healthy from a standpoint of helping you become more healthy, functional, and cohesive as a team, because let's be honest, a lot of times they're not. From there, as goes the leadership team, so goes the rest of the organization. So you get to a point where the entire organization is crystal clear on the vision. They're all gaining much more traction, more discipline, more accountability, and ultimately much more cohesive, function, and healthy. So to give you an idea, our typical client is a company with 10 to 250 employees. They're open-minded, and they're ultimately wanting to help the organization reach its full potential. So that's a little bit about EOS and Gino. This is a little bit about me. So for over 15 years, I have been helping entrepreneurs succeed. I've worked in the manufacturing, technology, service sectors. I've been in roles ranging from general manager to chief operations officer. I've been in businesses from $1 million in revenue to $50 million in revenue, from 7 employees to 175 employees in 4 locations. My best achievement was that manufacturing company where 300% revenue growth, and we actually hit as high as 27% EBIT. Nice little niche we found. But I've also been the entrepreneur with my own real estate business, and I'll be honest, I had an SEO marketing firm I started back in 2002 that, in hindsight, was probably worth me keeping. But like Gino and his EO group, I too found my passion for helping entrepreneurial businesses from sitting alongside of probably 30 plus owners for almost 5 years. That was in a group called C12, another CEO and business owners peer group. And here's what I can tell you from sitting alongside of them, listening, occasionally guiding them, but working with them. I believe EOS, and I truly, sincerely believe this, EOS is the best tool for all of the struggles that they face. And so it's why I'm so excited to share this with you. So with that, that is about us. Now what I'd like to do is go to the about you. So Dan, I'll get your help here with getting the poll going. I have a simple 3-question poll, and I would just like you to rate 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, these 3 questions. So hopefully you guys can see this. The first one is on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being best, how effective are your internal meetings? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being best, how effective are your internal meetings? So I'll go ahead and take a minute and have you guys start to fill that out. Wondering if anybody's going to be honest and say I plead the 5th. One to 10, 10 being best. Meetings are just such a great insight into the health and how much traction an organization is getting. All right, 76% voted. Let's see, can we get the last voters in here, please? And we'll close the poll. All right, let's go ahead and close the poll. Let's see, does it give them the results? No. So I'll tell you guys the results. 85% of you picked that 5 to 6 range. 85% picked in the 5 to 6 range. I'll be honest, in having done this for a while, I find that most people are around a 4 in their meetings. So pretty close. All right, next question. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being best, how aligned is the organization around the plan? How aligned is everyone in the organization around the plan? Are they all rowing in one direction? So let me open that up for you. Scale of 1 to 10. Looks like we've got some good activity here. This one's a little more varied. See if we can get 1 or 2 more votes in here. All right, we're about the same percentage we were last time. So Dan, I'll go ahead and have you close the poll. So everybody was split right between 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. Oh, there we go. And then we had somebody who pleaded the fifth, or maybe more than one person. 1 or 2 people pleaded the fifth. So that's good. Again, around 40% is the average of what I see here, around a 4 in organizations being aligned with the plan. All right, one last question for you. This one is, again, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best. What kind of accountability exists in your organization? And I want you to picture 10 being the perfect level of accountability for you. Go ahead and vote. What kind of accountability exists in the whole organization, not just around your leadership team? All right. Looks like we've got the same level of responses, so thank you, Dan. And here's our results. 15% plead the fifth, 23% in the 3 to 4, and tied in the 5 to 6, 7, 8. I typically find this one averages right around a 3. It's amazing how many people are willing to say that their organization lacks some accountability. So here's the good news. That's all I'm going to ask you about you. No other major questions, except I want you to think in your mind, before I continue, if you could get something out of your business, what would that be? What's the big thing that you personally would love to get out of your business? If you want to write it down somewhere, maybe some notes that you're taking, I would encourage you to get out a notepad so that you can take some notes as we go along. But what is the one big thing that you would love to get out of your business? So write that down and keep that in mind. All right, moving on. For you type A'ers, we're going right into step 3, which is the journey. And I'm going to show you the exact tools. Now, here's where things get fun. Hopefully everybody can see this screen. What I'm going to do is take you on a journey. But to take you on that journey, I have to begin at the end. And so what I mean by that is that the center of this journey is your business. The center is your business. Now, I apologize for the handwriting on here. It's not easy writing on a tablet with an electronic pen, but you guys get the picture. At the center of this model is your business. And the model actually stems from a discovery. And the discovery was this, that entrepreneurs, leaders, managers tend to wrestle with 150 issues simultaneously. In other words, there's just a lot of stuff going on in your business. And so the discovery was that to the degree we can focus and strengthen just 6 key components. 6 key components in your business, everything can kind of fall into place. Because those symptoms were just symptoms. They weren't the root cause. And so when I say take you to the end of the journey, our journey is designed for you to become strong in all 6 of those key components. So what I'm going to do is first illustrate what the 6 components are at a very high level, and then we're going to go into some kind of detail in the tools. So the first key component is the vision component. And strengthening the vision component is just simply crystallizing your vision. It's getting everyone in the organization 100% on the same page with the vision of the organization. Now, when I come back through and go into the details, I'm going to share with you the 2 exact tools that we use to strengthen that component. But right now, I'm just giving it to you at a high level. The second key component is the people component. And strengthening the people component, first of all, we have to realize you cannot achieve your vision. You cannot make your vision a reality without great people. So what we're going to do here is we're going to cut through all of the wonderful terms out there. The A player, the superstar, you've probably heard some of these, top quartile, and we're going to get to the heart of what makes for great people. the definition of great people in one organization is different than the definition in another. So I'll help you define what is great in your organization. I'll come back to that in a minute. Again, 2 tools or disciplines that we use for that. The third key component is the data component. And in strengthening the data component, what we do is we cut through all of the subjectives, the egos, the personalities, the opinions. We kind of boil your organization down into just good, hard, solid data. Why? Because the data never lies. Here you're managing the business through data so that you have an absolute pulse on the organization. And the way we do that again is through 2 simple tools or disciplines that I'll come back to in just a minute. Now at this point, I want you to imagine an organization that has a very strong vision, strong people. They have great people in the organization. They're looking at data to make their decisions. If you can get a sense for what that looks like, it's this lucid, open, honest, very transparent organization where any obstacles, any barriers, any impurities in the organization, they just kind of stand out. We call those issues, which takes us to the 4th key component, which is the issues component. The issues component is helping you solve any of those obstacles, barriers, problems, the things that ultimately are standing in the way of you achieving your vision. Because, listen, success is in direct proportion to your ability to solve your issues. Think about it. Successful people are just very good at solving their problems. So, two simple tools or disciplines that I'll share with you there when I come back in just a minute. On to the 5th key component. The 5th key component is the process component. The process component. And what we do in strengthening this component is help you create consistency in your organization. It's really helping you to systematize it so that it becomes more efficient, more effective, more fun, more manageable, and ultimately more profitable. Again, I'll come back to the 2 tools or disciplines that we use there in just a moment. And the final component is what we call the traction component. It's also the name of the book that describes this system. But this is where we bring discipline and accountability into the organization to help you actually execute on your vision. Now, I want you to notice something. There's no coincidence that vision is on the top and traction is on the bottom. Vision without traction is hallucination. Let me say that again. Vision without traction is just hallucination. So the only way we're going to make that vision a reality is our ability to execute. And again, we'll do that through 2 very simple disciplines or tools. And so with that, these are the 6 key components of your business. And it makes up what we call the EOS model. Now, some of you may be asking, he keeps saying EOS, but I have no idea what that is. Well, let me tell you. EOS stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And what it is it's a management system that gets implemented into your organization to help you harmoniously orchestrate all the moving parts and help you run a better business, help you get more out of your business. Now, I just want to be really clear. We make an assumption right out of the gate that you have the right product or you have the right service and you're in the right market. Because if you're not, there isn't a whole lot that I can do to help you there. But assuming you do, what the Entrepreneurial Operating System is going to do is help you run a better business. It's going to help you get more out of the business. So with that being said, and now that you know what the EOS model is, the journey, like I told you, is designed to help you become strong. And by strong, I mean we can actually measure the progress of our relationship with each other. So our goal is to get to 100% in each of the 6 key components, which, by the way, you'll never reach. It's utopia. It's impossible. Frankly, what we target is 80% or better in each of the 6 key components. Now, the sad truth of it is most organizations are at around 20% in each of these 6 key components. They're succeeding in spite of themselves. But when I talk about 100%, what I'm talking about is where all 6 of these key components are strengthened in the organization. All of the tools that I'm about to show you are in place. So hopefully you're ready to go there, because that's where I'm headed next. And we'll go right back to vision and those 2 bullet points that you see there. So the first bullet point under vision is what we call answering the 8 questions. The 8 questions. When I talk about crystallizing a vision, it really starts with the leadership team answering 8 simple questions. And to the degree that I can get everyone on that team to answer those 8 questions in absolute unison, then you're 100% on the same page. You have a clear vision for your organization. So what are the 8 questions? Well, let me show you. We are going to go to our very first tool. The first tool that we have here, we call the Vision Traction Organizer. Now, the Vision Traction Organizer is a very powerful tool. It's a simple 1 page with 2 sides that contain the vision and the plan for your organization. It's so powerful. I'm going to make sure each of you have a copy. At the end, there will be a handout that's made available to you at the end of the webinar. So I need you to stay till the end so you can get your copy of the Vision Traction Organizer. But whether you ever use EOS or not, I just would highly recommend that you take the time to use this tool with your team. So what are the 8 questions? Well, the 8 questions are answered in this document. Do you guys see this shaded section here? There's 8 shaded sections, 5 on the front and 3 on the back. Each of those are the 8 questions that we must answer. So let me real quick take you through the VTO. That's what we call the Vision Traction Organizer. And the first question that we need to answer is, what are your core values? So what I do is I take a client through a discovery process to help them discover what's at the organization's core value. I bet you most of you have heard of the term core values, but I'm not talking about something that you just put on the wall once and then forget about. I'm talking about things that help you actually define who you are as a people so that you can integrate that into the daily life and decisions of your organization. Typically 3 to 7 is the rule of thumb. And once we determine what those are through that discovery exercise, they define who you are as a people. They define your culture. And then you get the job of surrounding yourself with people who share those same values. So, question 1, what are your core values? The second question, what is your core focus? Now, core focus has been called many, many things over time. You may have heard of it as a mission statement, a vision statement, hedgehog concept. It's been called the voice, as Stephen Covey called it in a book. I think it was called The 8th Habit. So there's a lot of different consulting terms out there for this, and I apologize for throwing another one at you. But we call it core focus because it comes from the core of who you are. And once you're clear on what it is, you have to stay absolutely laser focused on it. So again, I take you through this discovery process to help you figure out what's your true core focus. It's made up of 2 parts, as you can see here: your purpose, cause, or passion, and your niche. And to the degree that we can crystallize those 2 things for you and keep you 100% laser focused on it with every ounce of your being, hopefully you don't get distracted by the stuff I like to call shiny stuff, right? The stuff that distracts you along your journey of building a really great organization. So ultimately, a core focus is a guiding and a filtering mechanism for you. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, the third question or section that we have is your 10-year target. The 10-year target is simply just answering, what's the big goal around here? What is the big goal? Now you can decide the time frame. 10 to 30 years is kind of the rule of thumb for us. We call it 10-year because most of our clients choose 10 years, but you can decide. But what is it that we are all working towards? What is everyone in the organization working towards so that we can gain alignment, so that we're rowing the boat in the same direction? What's that 10-year target? All right, the fourth question on our VTO is, what is your marketing strategy? This section is designed to create a laser focus around your sales and marketing efforts, ultimately increasing your sales and your close ratios. And so to do that, 4 parts that make up a great marketing strategy. The first one is your target market, or what we like to call the list. This is crystallizing who your ideal customer is, who you should be targeting. What's the demographic? What's the geographic? And what's the psychographic of that ideal customer? In other words, who are they? Where are they? What are they? Now, the next 3 parts of the marketing strategy make up the compelling message that you are going to take back to that list, to that target market. The first piece of that message, as you can see here, are your 3 uniques. The 3 uniques. The most common term here you may have heard is a differentiator. But what are the 3 things that make you unique, make you truly different as an organization? The second you can see there is a proven process. How do you do what you do in a graphical format? I'm actually going to show you my proven process in step 4. So just remember that. And finally, a guarantee. What can you guarantee or promise to take away to alleviate risk from your customer? And upon answering those 4 parts, you then have a clear marketing strategy to take to the world. Now, I just want you to think about this for a second. What we have defined now is we know who you are with your core values. We know what you are. We know where you're going. And we know how you're going to get there. What the group is and the compelling message that's going to get you there. Which now lets us go to question number 5. Question number 5, which is our 3-year picture. The 3-year picture is really just painting a picture of what the organization looks like just 3 very short years from now. And you know what I'm talking about. 3 years will be here sooner than you realize. Now, if you look, this isn't a very detailed strategic plan. Everything that we do in our approach in this process is a simplified way. So this is a very simplified approach to your strategic planning. So what we're going to do here is simply just paint a picture of what the organization looks like 3 short years from now. Starting with, as you can see, what's the future date, our revenue, our profit, and a measurable. And then, once those are clear, in 5 to 15 bullet points, that's all, 5 to 15 bullet points, we paint a picture of what the organization is going to look like. Why do we do that? Well, because 2 reasons. So that in your mind's eye, you can see it. When your mind's eye can see it, here's what happens. First of all, you're just more likely to get there, are you not? Second, by having a clear picture in our head of what the organization looks like in 3 years, we can go to the traction side of the document. And in the traction side of the document, it will let us do very good 1-year planning once we have a good, clear 3-year picture. So if you notice, we follow the same drill here. Future date, revenue, profit, measurables, and then we go into your goals and we determine what are the 3 to 7 most important things that must get done in the year. Now notice I said 3 to 7, simplified approach, not 23. You can't do everything, right? 3 to 7 most important things. 3 is even better than 7. In EOS, we say less is more. So we boil it down to just a handful of goals for the year. And with that 1 year plan now clear, we then take it down to the ground to what really matters. What really matters, and that's the next 90 days inside of your organization. The next quarter, we establish what we call rocks, which are the 3 to 7 most important things that we have to get done in the next 90 days. We crystallize what those rocks are. 3 to 7 most important things. So, if you can imagine, what we do is we create this world for you where we review our vision, we get on the same page, we determine what we absolutely must get done in the next 90 days. Again, 3 to 7, hopefully closer to 3. And then we put our heads down, we go to work, we come up for air, we review how we did, we review our vision again, we set new rocks for the next 90 days, and we create this world. It's a forever thing. It's a rhythm inside of your business, helping you to gain more traction. Now, the 8th and final question, as important as the rest, although I never see this in any of the businesses that I visit, is an issues list. As important as the rest, we have got to get out of our head what are all the issues, the obstacles, the barriers, the problems, the opportunities, the concerns. We got to get them out, and the discipline here is just getting them out of your head. Now, how we're going to solve them, I'll get to in a little bit, but this is about creating that transparency in the organization so all of the issues are out on the table. Now, as I mentioned, that's the 8 parts of the VTO, the 8 questions, but we have 2 parts to vision. So the first was the 8 questions, and that was the VTO. The second is what we call SBA, shared by all. What we've got to do is get to a point where everyone in the organization shares the vision. So let's say you have 50 people in your organization. 100% strengthening this component would be 50 out of 50 people knowing and understanding and being aligned with the vision of the organization. In other words, their actions, their energy is perpetuating the vision. Everyone is rowing in the same direction. Now, not to get all kumbaya on you here, but to the degree that everyone's energy in the organization is going in one direction, everyone rowing all in the same direction, there's something that happens. These universal laws line up. I can't explain it, but you are going to achieve that vision faster because everyone's focused in the same direction. It's really uncanny. And so that's the first key component, the vision component. Again, the journey is designed to get you to 100%, but it's never going to happen. So 80% or better, and we're doing great. Okay? Moving on. The next key component is the people component. When we say great people is really 2 things. It's right people in the right seats. Now, Jim Collins has made this term very popular in his book, Good to Great. But what we're going to do for you here is define exactly what that means. I'm not just going to share a principle with you and leave you to it. No, we're going to define exactly what it means because you have to have both right people in the right seats. So let me break each one down for you. Right people simply means they're people that possess your core values. So now that we did that work in the VTO, we've answered the very first question, what are our core values? Now we've got to make sure that all 50 of 50 in your organization share those values. That's how we know they're the right people. So let me just quickly show you how simple of a tool we have that shows you black and white whether they're the right people in your organization. Up at the top, we list our core values and we write the names on the side and we rate them. Very simple black and white tool to help you know if you have the right people in your organization. Do they fit in this culture? Do they share and perpetuate our core values? But that's not enough. It's not enough that they're just the right people. On the other side, right seats means they have to have that God-given skill set, right? Their true ability, the unique ability to do the job and do the job well. And so the tool that I will introduce you to there, we call the accountability chart. The accountability chart is kind of like an org chart, but better. And it starts with this basic fundamental belief. And the belief is this, that in every organization, there are three major functions. Three major functions that make every business go round. There's a sales and marketing function. There's some kind of operational function where you make the product or deliver the service. And there's a finance function. Three major functions in every great business. But in addition, what we found in truly great organizations, there's an additional role that we call the integrator. The integrator is the person that harmoniously integrates those major functions in the business, the three major or more. But what we do is we actually customize the accountability chart for your organization. We take a big step back and determine what is the right and best structure to get you to the next level. And so in doing that, sometimes what we do is we split sales and marketing into two different functions. Operations may split into 1, 2, or 3 different functions. Sometimes HR and IT come outside of the finance function. Whatever it is, right along this line, right here, 3 to 8 major functions, whatever makes sense for your organization, all right? But once we've determined those, then what we do is we clarify the 5 major roles for each of those functions. And those 5 major roles help you ensure you have the right people in the right seats. Then we don't stop there. We continue building this out for your entire organization, defining exactly what are the major roles for every seat, for lack of a better term, in your organization. We will build that out for the entire business. Now again, we've decided we're going to have somewhere between 3 to 8 major functions in this in this level right here, 3 to 5 or 3 to 8 major functions. Now once we've customized this for you, most of the time I want you to know this is what it looks like for our clients. This is their typical accountability chart. But 50% of the time we find another function. We call that function the visionary function. And when this function exists in the organization, the visionary, because it's so different than the integrator, we have got to define exactly what are the major roles and responsibilities for both of those seats. Here's what I mean. The visionary is very different. The visionary is the person with lots of ideas. They're very creative. They're great with culture. They're good with big relationships. They couldn't be more different than the integrator, who loves the day-to-day. They love to operate the business plan. They love the details. They're the ones that run the day-to-day of the business. So again, 50% of the time, our clients don't have a visionary. 50% of the time, they do. Regardless, we'll figure out what's the right structure for you so that we can crystallize the roles and responsibilities in your organization and get them working on executing on that vision. So, with that being said, having a completed accountability chart, we now can put the right people in the right seats, making sure that they're the right seat based on their skill set, their God-given talent, and their true unique ability. Now, here's what's going to happen though. Along your journey, you're going to come across 2 people issues. 2 people issues as you start to utilize this process. People issue number 1. We have the right person, but the wrong seat. The right person in the wrong seat. In other words, this person absolutely shares your core values. They fit like a glove. You love them, but they're in the wrong seat. I don't know what it is. The seat's too big, the seat's too small, whatever happened. For some reason, they're in the wrong seat. Now, Let's say you're an organization that has 30 people. You have 30 seats. Great news for you. Let's try to find that person another seat in the organization. The problem or issue is when there's no seat for them, and I'm assuming that most of you who are watching this are a for-profit organization, you can't just keep them around because you like them. Ultimately, for the greater good of the organization, you got to make that tough people decision. I see it all the time. I know it's difficult, but for the greater good, we got to make that decision. The second people issue that you're going to run into is where it's the right seat, wrong person. Right seat, wrong person. Man, this sometimes is even more difficult than the first one. You know why? Because they're phenomenally talented. They are absolutely in that unique ability of theirs, which means they're super, super productive, but they're the wrong person. Unfortunately, they don't share the core values. They don't fit in the culture. And it's so tough because they're so productive. It's so hard to let them go. But what I'm supposed to do, my job is going to be to convince you that they're going to kill you over the long term. They're chipping away at your culture right now in little ways that you don't even see. But over the long term, they're going to do more damage than good. In the short term, it looks pretty good. But again, my job convince you that if you're going to make a great organization, you have to have the right people in the right seats. You got to have both. Again, if you have 50 people, 100% would be 50 people, right seats. With that, moving on to the data. Now, for those of you, the type A'ers that are still with me, you're saying this is taking a little long. Don't worry, the rest go faster. Let me move on to the data component. In the data component, as I mentioned, we now need to boil the organization down to the good, hard, solid data so that we have an absolute pulse at any given time in the organization. We can't get caught up in the subjectives, the personalities, the opinions, and the egos. And so with data, there's two things. The first tool that we help you implement is called a scorecard. A scorecard, let me show you what one looks like, is a high-level instrument. It's meant for the leadership team. And what I do is I have an exercise that I help you to create a customized scorecard with 5 to 15 measurables. Those numbers will give you an absolute pulse on your business. So what you can see here in the scorecard is we know ultimately who is responsible, what is the weekly measurable that we're looking at, what is the weekly goal, and then we have this awesome 13 rolling weeks of data that help us to see trends and patterns so that we can get better at predicting inside of the organization. We can solve problems long before they turn into big problems. But ultimately, it helps you manage the business better because you've got this amazing pulse on the business. All right, second discipline is what we call a measurable. Measurable. And what that is really boiling the organization down to where everyone has a number. So remember the accountability chart that we did? With that complete and using those major roles and responsibilities, we can now define 1, 2, 3 numbers for that person. I want you to hear me now. It's the essence of clear expectations and accountability. When you can really boil down what you expect from somebody to a number on a daily or a weekly basis. You can't get any clearer than that. So 100% on the data component is where everyone in the organization has a pulse on the business and every person has a measurable. That is the data component. Now, moving on to the issues component. Remember, I said at this point with the vision strong, the people component strong, the data component strong, you now have this transparent organization. It's lucid, it's open, it's honest. There's just no place to hide. And so as a result, impurities, flaws, obstacles, barriers, the things that get in the way of us achieving our vision, they just kind of stand out. So what's going to happen is I'm going to help you smoke out all your issues. And that takes us to the issues component. And here's the great news about smoking out issues. You as an organization can get really, really good at solving them. So I'll show you how in just a second. Remember, your ability to achieve your vision is in direct proportion to you being ability to solve all your issues. So what we've got to get good at inside of the organization is setting up issues, knocking them down, making them go away forever so that they're not lingering for days or weeks or sometimes months or quarters, or I've even seen them years. So 2 disciplines for doing that. The first we call the issues list. I know, it's that simple. Can you believe it? What this is just building a discipline at all levels in the organization to where every team has its issues list, where we're all being open and honest and populating that issues list on a regular basis. Open and honest, right? It's creating that culture of healthy cohesiveness where when an issue stands out, we call it out. We smoke out that issue. We get it comfortable as a group admitting it. So we create this issues list at every level of the organization. And once we populate that, that takes us to the second discipline, which we call IDS. IDS stands for the issue solving track. No, actually what it stands for is identify, discuss, and solve, which we call the issues solving track. This track stems from a discovery, and it's evolved over years. You see, when we began to work with leadership teams and developing this process, what we would observe is this very, very phenomenally talented leadership team. They'd get hit with an issue, and you know what they would do? They would spend all of their time discussing the heck out of that issue. Maybe that's what happens in your team meetings. But rarely did they ever actually identify anything, and rarely did they ever actually solve anything. But they would walk away feeling productive because they had such a great debate over the issues, but in reality they were never making any headway. So after watching this, we decided to come up with the issues solving track and to help them solve those issues better and faster. So let me show you how it works. Imagine we have an issues list. The very first thing we do is in about 30 seconds, we identify what are the 1, 2, 3. We prioritize what are the top 3 issues that we need to resolve. And then once we've done that, we take number 1 and we go up and we identify. We dig deep all the way down to find out what is the real issue. Because let's be honest, many times the stated issue is really just a symptom of what's at the heart of this. Now, once we've gotten down to the real issue, then we move to discuss. And when we move to discuss, we're focused on the issue, no tangents. This is where everyone says what they have to say about the issue once, because more than once is politicking. I've been guilty of that myself. But once we all get it out on the table, then we purposefully move to solve. Moving to solve is where we create some sort of plan of attack, an action step that needs to happen to make that issue go away forever. Here's the beauty of following this track. It's that once you get to that solve step, the solution is always very simple. The vision is clear. Everybody on the team is on the same page. Now, listen, sometimes it's hard because we're talking about decisions around people and processes and symptoms, but it's always very simple. So we just need to make that tough decision and move forward. Now, once number 1's done, we move to number 2 and we IDS it. All right, that makes sense. 100% in the issues component is where everyone at all levels has an issues list and they're setting them up, they're knocking them down, they're IDSing them and making them go away forever. All right, with that, on to the 5th key component. That is the process component. Now, let's be honest. The process component is the most neglected in business. It's taken for granted. Most entrepreneurs, most leaders, most managers just don't see the value of process. It seems like so much detail, so much work. But here's how it works. Every business is made up of 6 to 10 major processes that make their business go round. Let me illustrate it for you. Every business has a handful of core processes, 6 to 10. What are they? Well, they're things like an HR process. Every business has a people process. That would be one of the core processes. Every business has some kind of a marketing process. How do we generate leads and interest in our product or service? Every business has a sales process. How do we turn those leads into paying customers? Every business has typically 1, 2, 3 major operational processes. How you make the widget or provide the service. Every business has an accounting process, a way that money flows, how money comes in, and hopefully less of it gets paid back out. And every business should have some kind of customer service or customer retention process. That's just an example of a handful of core processes in your business. So with that said, and talking about the neglected process here, what we are going to do is simply document your core processes. Document them. But when I say document, we take a very entrepreneurial 80-20 approach, which means 20% of the work to get 80% of the results. 20% of the work to get 80. We're talking a 2-page document, not a 50-page document. All right? Now, the second part of the process is then followed by all. FBA, followed by all. Once we've documented and we're in agreement on what our handful of processes are, you can almost think of them as kind of like your ABC way of doing business, your franchise model. Once we're really clear on it, we have to get it followed by all. So if you have 100 people in your organization, that's 100 out of 100 following your core processes. And that creates consistency in your organization. Trust me, you will be able to scale your business to whatever size you choose. Remember in the very beginning I asked, what's your big goal? What would you love to get out of your business? You know how you can do that? Through process and having everybody followed by all. So your business becomes more fun, more manageable, more peaceful, more efficient, and then, let's be honest, ultimately more profitable. So 100% in the process component is when we all agree on what those processes are, they're documented, and they're followed by all. All right, the last and final key component is, let's see how we're doing with time here. Good, is what we call the traction component. And this, again, is where we take that vision down to the ground, we make it a reality, because unfortunately most visions go unrealized. They go unrealized due to weakness in this component. So there's 2 disciplines for how we gain traction in our business, how we bring discipline and accountability into the organization. The first one is what we call rocks. The second is what we call meeting pulse. Rocks and meeting pulse. Let me take them one at a time. Rocks, as I mentioned earlier, is where we as an organization determine what are the 3 to 7 most important things that we've got to get done in the next 90 days. But what we're doing here is not just at a leadership team level, we're taking that down to the entire organization so that every person has a priority for the next 90 days. Can you imagine what that would look like? Every person in the organization clear on what they're going to accomplish in the next 90 days. Then the second part of traction is we help you implement a meeting pulse. I asked you guys how your meetings were, and so what we do is inside of that 90-day world, we help you implement a weekly meeting pulse. We call it a level 10 meeting. And it's what really gets to the heart of a great meeting. So on a weekly basis, my goal would be to get you to a level 10 where you rate your meetings as 10s. And in order to do that, every one of our clients follows this same level 10 meeting agenda. It's a very specific agenda. First of all, it helps us transition into the meeting. Then we spend a little bit of our time reporting on priorities and numbers and our two most favorite people, our customers and employees. Then we bring a little bit of accountability into the meeting. It's baked right in with a to-do list. But look at this. We spend 60 minutes IDSing, solving issues in the organization. You want to know what makes for a great meeting? Solving issues. That's where the real magic happens. And then finally we conclude and we rate to get that meeting to a level 10. So with that, that is the meeting pulse. Now 100% in this key component, again, is everyone has a ROCS and everyone in the organization has access to some sort of meeting pulse, even if it's not weekly. With that, that is our EOS model. If you remember, our journey is designed to get you to this 100% in each of the 6 key components. So that's step 3. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I'll remind you, feel free to type questions about any of that and I'll answer them shortly. But I want to wrap up here. And so let me go back to our slide. And if you remember, I said I am going to share with you my proven process. A proven process is a graphical representation of what you do for your customer. This is my graphical representation of what I do for my customer. It's designed to give you ease and comfort in knowing that you're in the hands of a proven process. So let me show it to you. For me, I start with a typical overview of the system. Basically, you guys got that today. We talk about the tools and the process. Make sure you really understand what it is. And if you like what you hear, then what we do is we begin with a full day session. We spend a full day together that we call Focus Day. And in Focus Day, what we're going to do is accomplish 5 very specific things. You can see them listed right here. The first that we accomplish is a concept called hitting the ceiling. It's really helping you understand this phenomenon of how organizations go through a series of hitting ceilings. And so I'm going to teach you the 5 leadership abilities that you must learn and master and embrace to constantly break through the ceiling every time it occurs. The second thing we're going to do in Focus Day is we're going to create your accountability chart. One of the things I love about what I do is we don't spend a lot of times doing this long discovery process. No. We roll our sleeves up right on day 1 and we get to work. We're going to get to the structure side of things. So we create your accountability chart. We crystallize those roles and responsibilities so that we can make sure we get the right people in the right seats. The third thing we do is we establish your ROCs. Make sure that the company is clear on what it needs to get done in the next 90 days. And then we also set ROCs for each of the leadership team. The fourth thing we do is we implement that meeting pulse, that level 10 meeting, so that you're gaining some traction right out of the chute. And then the fifth thing that we're going to do is take a first cut at your scorecard, helping you to get the absolute pulse on your business. Now notice I say take a first cut. Typically, it takes 1 to 3 months for you to really love your scorecard, for it to evolve into something that you love. But we'll do a discovery exercise to get you started. And so with that, that is what we accomplish on Focus Day. Now again, this was an all-day session. One of the other things that is part of my marketing strategy is all of my daily sessions are guaranteed, which means there's a 100% guarantee on a session. If you don't like the session, you don't feel you got value from it, you don't pay me. So I'm trying to demonstrate for you how I follow my own rules. We have a proven process and we also have a guarantee. But let's say that you got value out of your session, you like what you're doing, then we come back together 30 days later and we begin a 2-day agenda of building your vision. 2-day agenda. All right? The way it works is, again, a full day session, and we begin to answer the 8 questions from the VTO. You can see that there. We actually begin by spending 25% of our session time reviewing the foundational tools, those focus day tools that I taught on day one. We want to make sure that they're really working inside of your organization. Then we come back together another 30 days later, and we do the same thing. We spend about 25% of our time reviewing the focus day tools. At this point, you should have mastered those focus day tools. They should really be gaining traction inside of your organization. And then we complete answering the 8 questions. It's kind of a space training, space learning program that we set up. So if you can imagine at this point, you're clear on the focus day tools, you're gaining traction and executing on what you've now defined as a vision. And from there, we go into full-blown execution mode. We get to work. And what I do is I run quarterlies and annuals for you for as long as you need me. We go into full-blown executing on that vision every quarter. I just facilitate those quarterlies, but at some point you're going to get it. At some point you're going to master this system and you're going to graduate from the program. You're going to move on. You won't need me anymore. That's really the design of the program. My job is not to work my way deeper in your organization. It's actually just to implement the system and then get the heck out of your way and let you run your business. So on average, that takes our typical client about 18 months. 18 months for them to fully implement, some a little less, some a little more. Some of them keep me on forever, just so I continue to be that outside help running their quarterlies and annuals. But again, that's not the design. So again, I don't charge any upfront fees. There's no engagements, a guarantee. If you're interested in having me help you, I'd love to do that. But here's the one thing I want you to understand about EOS. If you decide to go along this journey, whether I help you or not, you have got to give this thing a 12-month mental commitment. A 12-month mental commitment. This isn't a seminar. It's a way of life I'm teaching you. You're not coming into this picking up a few things and taking it back and trying it in your organization. I need a full 12-month commitment from you in order for this to really work in your organization. Again, at some point, you're not going to need me. You'll graduate. You'll be on your own. All right? So, obviously, I went through this thing very quick. Hopefully, that gives you an overview of the system. If you want to know the different ways that you can implement, number one is read the book. The book's called Traction. Dan, if you want to work on getting the handouts ready to go, I'm going to give you all the first chapter for free of the book Traction. Traction is an excellent book that really dives in deeper through what I just showed you about the EOS model, and you can try to self-implement. The second way that you could do this would be to actually take one of your members of your leadership team and get them trained in how to be an implementer. They could go through the same training that I have. Or the third way is to hire someone like me to come in and help you and your leadership team implement the system. I think there's tremendous value in you not running and organizing those quarterly sessions, having somebody who's been trained and can step outside so that all of you can participate in the meeting. So with that, that is the end of the show. Any questions? Did we get any questions, Dan? Any questions, guys? Go ahead and type them on there in your questions section, and I'd be more than happy to answer them for you. Make sure you look at the handout section. And then that's it. I'll pass it back to Dan.
Well, on behalf of Macaulay and Asbury, thank you again for joining us for today's webinar, and a special thanks to Brian White from Whitestone Solutions for lending us his time, passion, and expertise today. A recap of today's presentation will be posted on our website, www.macpass.com. So give us a few days and look for that post to be up. So we do thank you again for being with us. And we do have one question that came in that maybe we can answer before we go ahead and sign off.
Does this work for a franchisee? That's a great question. Actually, yes. I do have clients who are franchisee operators, And I do know from inside of the community, it is gaining a tremendous amount of attention in the franchise realm. So yes, absolutely. Great question.
Well, with that, we thank you again for being with us today. We hope you have a great rest of your day. And please continue to stay connected to us and also to Whitestone Solutions for more great content like this. Thank you so much. Thank you once again for joining us for this presentation produced by McConley and Asbury. We hope you join us for our upcoming events. You can stay up to date with news and learn more about our upcoming events by visiting www.macpas.com. Thanks again, and have a great day.